Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this episode.
You can't think yourself out of a writing block. You have to write yourself out of a thinking block.
Man, Paul Lucido, if you are listening to this right now, you are here for 30 days of thought and friends with my great friend, Paul Lucido. If you haven't heard him on episode 760, I think even season one has been on the show, and we've done over a dozen 30 days of thought with our friend Andrew Berman. Paul Lucido, thanks for coming on and talking about writer's block. But first, before we get to that, this quote, this is a profound quote. What's your thinking around? You can't think yourself out of a writing block. You have to write yourself out of a what?
Out of thinking block. Because when you analyze that, we all get stuck in our head, right? You put it in such good words in 30 days of thought that you have all these ideas competing for your attention, all wanting to break the dam and get out. You know, I like your motto: read to think, write to develop, and speak to listen to what's unsaid and speak to let go. But sometimes we can get tangled up. It doesn't want to come out. We want to get it right. So in an adjunct to that quote is, you know, don't get it right, get it written down, then get it right. And that's speaks to just get started. And I experienced that, Jay. I got to tell you, brother, I experienced that a lot in my career. What I do day to day, a lot of what I do is creating narratives, coming up with a narrative. And I'll be honest, sometimes it just you got a talking point, perhaps, but then how do you shape a narrative around it? How do you write that out? And nowadays, let's be straight with generative AI, sometimes you could leverage that to get you out of that slump, to get you started,
Mm.
to get some catalyst. And I've learned how to be pretty creative using it. I've even learned that there are people that are writing books, just literally letting AI write it. I can't do that because I don't know how somebody could author something without being the author literally. But for me, a lot of it is get your talking points together, figure out what it is that where the direction you want to go, and just start writing, just start heading down that path. And that
This
speaks
is
to
deep.
both of those quotes. So that's my
Uh,
2 cents.
you said you didn't even know how they could write it without even writing it. It's deep because doesn't that impact their identity? And I mention that because potentially in a self-inflicting or condemning sense. And the reason I bring that up is it seems like a paradox of writing. If you're in a writer's block, you got to write to get out of it. Well, that's a paradox. How do you get out of that paradox? My question to you is, what are ways throughout your career as a leader in thought for companies, helping make the implicit explicit, right? Presenting the stories and the narratives. How have you reconciled that paradox? How have you written? How have you done this? What are rituals or that
Yeah.
you've modeled that we can benefit from?
Well, one of them for me, and I think I spoke on this in a couple prior podcasts, is divergence, right? Sometimes you have to divert. You got to step away and do another activity to get that stimulated, right? It's like when I get creatively stumped, and I don't know if I could use that as a word, but you just hit this point creatively, whether it's a writing, whether you're going to produce a piece of art, whether you're going to create an ad, whatever it might be. Sometimes you need some external stimuli. And so what I will do is I've said this before, a lot of times the best ideas come when I'm driving in the car. For some reason, that's usually when things start to flow in my mind. It's divergent thinking, and when I do that, that sometimes uncaps or releases. Oh, I know, I got it. I know what I want to write about, And then it gives me the inertia, excuse me, the ability to overcome the inertia to get started. And then you just start to write in that direction. And it may not come right away. You may just be throwing a few words down on paper, metaphorically speaking or figuratively speaking. But once you start that flow, then it begins to come. Not everything could be on demand. And I get it. We live in a world where everything is at the speed of business, but there are a lot of smart people that will hit those little stumbling blocks, those little walls. It's how do you climb over the wall? How do you get past it? I suggest divergent thinking, some outside stimuli,
Oh
something.
man, this is so genius.
I don't know how genius it is. I will say that I feel like this is a natural thing that people do. Sometimes they get criticized for it. Wait, shouldn't you be sitting at your station working on your synopsis, working on your thesis? Yes, but right now I need to walk away for a minute. And by walking away, sometimes the ideas begin to flow, and then you get back to it, and then you go. So I think divergent thinking, and there's a whole philosophy on divergent thinking. A good friend of mine and I talked about that years ago. I still believe that that works. It works for me. If you're asking how I do it, that's how I do it. When I'm stuck, sometimes too, like when you and I have this, well, we're going to do this podcast tomorrow. This is the topic. Well, sometimes I could read the topic and I could read it, the paragraph, and it doesn't quite sync right away. And then I read it again and I'm thinking, I'm not quite, I don't feel confident that I'm understanding. I will break, divert, come back, and boom, all of a sudden it's like I'm refreshed and I get it. I did that literally this morning with regard to writer's block. I read it, had some sense of it, and then the aha moment went off, and then bang, I I was able to figure out in my mind what it meant to me. And again, everybody's different. Some people like to walk around the building a few laps to get them to get that those juices flowing. But for
We're
me,
watching you. We're watching you, Gary. We're watching
yeah,
you.
Gary Mellis.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
funny because I brought that up. I brought that
yeah,
up.
I like, well, yeah, it's just, and it's cerebral guy. Would you say that the divergent, so the activity, I have a philosophical question to ask you,
Sure.
of course. Um, so let's say I'm stuck. I'm one of the listeners, or I'm me, I'm you. I have a block in the writing. So you're saying, hey, divert, go here, action, activity, yeah, go do something else. Would you say the diversion of activity that's going to alter our experience? Our experience then could have an impact on the task at hand. But so that's my first inference. That bringing up something you said earlier about the leisure, the accessibility of artificial intelligence. Maybe I don't divert. Maybe I just type in, tell me what to think. Now I'm not having those mini unconscious experiences. Unconscious meaning what's happening to my unconscious, to my being, to my body, my body, my philosophy is in my body. I'm not
Yes.
experiencing. So you're right, the divergence. So I that's where my mind went.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point. Let me tell you. Up until recently, that's how I typically do what I do. We all live in the information age. We all know this. This is the world we live in. We're doing it right now. We're creating content. We're putting our thoughts out there for other people to learn from and maybe spin off. Maybe it helps give them some catalyst to go in a particular direction. With AI, and the key is you don't want it to become a crutch. With generative AI, the way I use it is it's just another tool. Can I use it to get me started? Sure. I've got something I need to write about. here's first of all, you got to figure out what is the topic. So AI is not going to tell you what the topic is. You're going to have to decide what that topic might be and then start to generate a narrative around that topic. But then it's going to be about, well, what about that topic do I want to be more centric to? Do I want to be in what silo within that subject matter do I want to go down? All those things all those things can be, you could go and you could look that up and you can get it started and get your brain thinking and go, oh, this is great, wait a minute, that's where I need to go. That little bit of information that you get back might spark something and ignite you where you go, I got it, I know where I want to go now. And you start to go down that road. You can go back once you get that framed out and go, oh, you know what, I'm getting stuck again. There's something about this. I need to pull. I need to extract out of this some good nuggets out of this. Now you could throw that back into generative AI, and then say, pull for me some key points. And it could do those things. Now, I don't want to make this discussion about AI. I'm just telling you how you could use AI as a tool to keep you moving in a direction. The other way is if you didn't have AI would be back to how I use divergent thinking. And that is sometimes I just need to go do something to keep my body occupied. Walking is good, driving, maybe listening to some music, maybe just having a conversation with somebody else. And through that conversation, all of a sudden it comes to you and you go, boom, I got to go.
You
I got to
just
go right.
taught me
It,
something.
it happens, brother. It's just how we're wired as humans.
I missed a variable all these thousands of episodes. Read to think, write to develop, listen to your was unsaid, speak to let go, walk
Oh, yeah.
to
Good.
understand, walk. Maybe it's the Nietzsche. It's like walk. I have a quote. I haven't committed to memory yet. It's like walk, only I have to look it up. I don't have it yet, but it's like walk, you know. Only you can walk. He says one, you can't fly into fly. Anyone who wants to learn how to fly cannot. Yeah. He who wants to learn how to fly must first learn how to walk and run and climb and dance. One cannot climb fly into flying. Stand and walk and run and climb and
Of
dance.
course.
One
Steps.
cannot fly into flying, but the
Yeah.
walking, we've never codified the walking and the walking. This is why I have spent so much time with founders walking around. Steve Jobs used to walk with Bill Campbell, his coach, walk, go for walks. Larry Ellison was on a walk with Steve Jobs, Oracle's founder. Larry Ellison, mentor to Steve Jobs, mentor to Elon Musk. They were on a walk
Hmm.
when Ellison and Jobs, and Ellison's like, this is after Jobs was kicked out of the company. Are we going to buy it back? You want help? Like they were on a walk. They would go for walks. It's an Eastern thing too. But when I studied the philosophers, the writers, the authors, Daily Rituals, one of my favorite books, 160 geniuses, it elucidates on their lives, their daily schedules, and walking was huge.
Yeah.
Arthur Schopenhauer, starting at 45, I think, he was walking every day, no matter what the weather was. Immanuel Kant had the same schedule for his whole life, like never left Königsberg. I think it was Königsberg, but he the same time, everyone knew where he was going to be. So that's if you have somebody going after you, but they know where you're going to be. But no,
Right.
he would walk. I want to share the writer's block I've been in a couple years. Uh, I think, that's what I got. I reread this. I bet it feel like what happened to my creativity? Where is it? Did I just I know I'm jumping, but this is where I am ready to write again. Something happened to me recently. This 30 Days of Thought was written in an explosion of creativity. I and these can come and go, and they can easily be
Yes.
lost. And I've been I've really finally committed to Arthur Schopenhauer. I think he's one of the great geniuses. He wrote the world as will as the world as will and represent an idea, or the world as will and representation. People call it different names. Like in the first thrust of his life, and then just everything was just reaffirming. It was like, and that's a pattern too. It's I think there's something that I discovered on this conversation with you about it's almost like right so close between in the front of it, you can't see it, that walking has some of the best ideas I've ever had, conversations. We should be walking while we do this podcast, 30 Days of Thoughts, like on
Well,
the
some
treadmill or
people,
something.
well, some people do. That's interesting. There's this new fireside chat. People do the fireside chat. They try to do things very casual. Some of the best discussions come out of just, sitting by the campfire, as we've talked about. When you're walking by yourself, there's more what inner monologue going on. You're kind of, your thoughts are beginning to flow. Maybe it helps you see things clearer. I don't know why that occurs. I just know that it's one of the tools that can help you get there when you're stuck. Um, but pairing up with another human and going on a walk together, and you start to talk about things. Perhaps I'm having this writer's block. Well, what do you want to write about? I haven't really thought about it. Well, what are you good at? What is it that you feel you want to convey? Sometimes it could take another person to bring that out of you and get you there, right? But I think what we probably would need to do, I think this would be a good subject, is to talk about divergent thinking and what divergent thinking really means. There is a whole, I think there's a podcast I remember that I listened to. This goes years ago, that a good friend of mine wanted me to listen to. He says, "You will love divergent thinking. It's you, Paul. It's how you think. It's all the stuff you talk about is kind of encapsulated in this way of thinking versus convergent, right? Converge, diverge. There is something to be said about spinning away and then that bringing you right back where you need to be. To your point, hey, I'm ready to write, but yet you're not writing. You want to write, but now it's like, what do I write about? I don't know. Maybe you go back to 30 days of thought and you revisit everything you wrote and come to the conclusion that you have a different mindset about what you thought was right at that time, or how you felt about something might be different. Why? Bayesian thinking. You've got new information about that subject. Somebody opened up your eyes to something. You, through your own travels and through your own interactions, you learn something new, which is a beautiful thing. I think all those things contribute to why we do the things
Yeah,
that we do.
the next two books are 30 more days of thought, and then thoughts
30
on
more days.
and then the thoughts on 30 on the 30 more days of thought,
There
and then the
you
thoughts on
go.
the thoughts on 30 more days of thought. And
I mean,
that is it, because that's the perpetual power of when I read through the book and I'm doing it again, I do have more to say and think about.
yeah.
Tactically, I made a note, and now as thoughts come in, this was this is a behavior that has always helped me with my thoughts. Is I have notes. I have about a few thousand in the Evernote, one of those note savers, and I have a
Mhm.
new notepad with thoughts as they come in. I put them in there, and then I can expand upon them later in a more, all right, I'm gonna expand on this. So like here's one. Reading just 10 pages per day is enough. The general mass overlooks reading. Stillness, the power of non-movement. Thinking merely 10 pages a day launches the individual to heights greater than the average citizen capable of fathoming. Read 5 pages upon rising, and five before shutting one's eyes, and a year later arise higher, higher than any peer the prior year by leaps and bounds, high flying. So it's like little notes I'm putting in here.
These are
Lies
great.
are intoxicating. They pay short-term highs and don't suffer consequences for years.
These are great.
Yeah, people start coaching often as a consequence of not getting the coaching they need. Uh,
Well, that's that. Let's stop right there. You want to learn something, teach it. So that's what that says to me. Something, and that's back to just moving in the direction. Fake it till you make it. Start to move in that. I mean, we know them all, right, Jay? There's so many different sayings and platitudes and analogies. I think that um, I would add that it's important to do what you like to do and where your interests lie. Sometimes they say stick to what you know. That's true. But then what if you're eager to learn something that you don't know? There's something to be said about that, and that's that goes back to the beautiful thing of our curious minds wanting to start to delve into an area, diverge and go somewhere else and start to learn about something that you may not know that could open up another door for you or creatively or from a writer's perspective or whatever. To me, if you're writing, you are a creative person. I think writers are creative,
this is
just
what you've
as
given me
musicians
today.
are.
And then I'd love if you could just give us your summary of the excerpt, but this is what you've given me today. Um, it's read to think, write to develop, listen to hear what is unsaid, speak to let go, and walk to pull it all together.
That's
That's what
awesome.
you've given us today after all these years, taken 7 years to get here. And that's what the value of this process. Walk to put it all together. And the second thing you've given me today is it's 30 days of thought. Book two is 30 more days of thought, and book three is thoughts on 30 more days of thought. And why am I overcomplicating things? Like we almost published like 3 books of just like that's what I was gearing up to release. Honestly, just filling paper. No. Uh I know what I need to write. I need to write what speaks to me.
Gosh, you beat me
And
to
I've
the
stopped. No,
punch.
I'm sorry. You're the
You beat
coaching
me to the
me.
punch.
You've been
You beat
coaching
me,
me. That's the point.
brother.
I stopped writing what speaks to me, and I've lost the focus of the mission the last couple of years and been distracted by the fruit of a once clear mission.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is my awareness. And I please, if you could just close us out.
You want me to close you out, huh? Well, look, we all have, as you said, I like how you put it in your words. There's a lot of the mind is a dark place, right? You got all these competing thoughts in there. They're all looking to get your attention. You just have to find a way, pick a lane, pick something, and you set it that speaks to you and go with that. And again, this is all centric to being a good writer. Um, and try not to use writer's block as an excuse not to write. Just start writing. And then you can go back and you could course correct and make it, and tailor it and fine tune it. But you got to start moving in a direction. And maybe walking is the way to get you started.
Paul, you're the man. If you're listening to this podcast, go listen to 30 Days of Thought on the Culture Matters podcast. Paul Lucido, Andrew Berman, myself, and friends. And please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. That's how we grow the platform. We can continue to do more. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.